Okay, here is my stunning giraffe suit because although we didn't get to 50, we got pretty darn close. So I'll give it to you, especially for those kids who I'm going to give a shout out to in a minute who have done all the work that we put out there. So you guys definitely need to be acknowledged. So here it is, tail and all, styling giraffe, and yes, I do sleep in these. So I'm going to do you another favor today. The giraffe talking. I'm going to give you a chance to catch up with the story if you have not been reading along as we went. Because as we knew would happen, the guidelines have changed. And this stuff is no longer optional for you. I'm taking that word optional and I'm taking it off the table. So today, I'm going to read you chapters 1 through 8 summaries so that starting on Monday, you are caught up, beginning of a new week, beginning of new expectations, and you're going to do the work and follow along as we go. So I'm going to talk about this on the Zoom tomorrow. So you need to do your part. You need to listen to these summaries. You need to do some vocab work, and we got to get going. So if you're all caught up, listen. You don't have to read along. Just kind of put it on a, play because you know what I'm talking about. Is it snowing out? Oh, for crying out loud, it's snowing out. If you have not been doing the work as we go, your job is to open up the Google Doc underneath because it's going to take your concentration, not just half listening. Read along with me as we go the summaries of chapters 1 through 8. So that on Monday, you are set to go, all right? That's your job today. That's the plan. I'm also going to put a flip grid under here, and you're going to talk to me and get a message back to me about what you've done and what you want to do. Okay, so here we go. This is the summary of what we've been reading for chapters 1 through 8. So listen carefully if you have not kept pace with us, because starting on Monday, you're going to be doing all the regular work right along with us. A man walking home from a day's work at his office hears a dog fight in the alley he's walking past. At first, he pays no attention to it, but then he sees 25 dogs attacking one lone red-bone hound. The old dog takes on his attackers and begins to tear into them, forcing the dogs to retreat. This man, feeling sorry for the hound, wades into the melee, which is that kind of craziness, and scatters the other dogs away from the hound dog. He coaxes the hound dog into going home with him. After seeing he is dirty, starving, and in need of attention, the dog reminds him of his youth, which compels him to feed and bathe him. The next morning, after eating and resting, the dog is set free to continue its journey. The man feels the hound is traveling back home after being separated from his owner. The dog, whose collar says his name is Buddy, seems grateful for the man's help. The red-bone hound reminds the man of his youth and the dogs he had who gave their lives to save his. He sits in his living room remembering the story of the hounds of his youth. The man is now remembering his youth, living at the foot of the Ozark Mountains in northeastern Oklahoma. And this is during the 1930s, the time of the Great Depression. His mother is allotted a piece of farmland because she is part Cherokee. The boy, Billy, is 10 years old and living in the most perfect place on earth. He loves to hunt, which is easy to do in this part of America. The land is full of every kind of animal, from lizards to ringtail raccoons, which makes Billy very happy. The only thing missing from his life are a pair of coonhounds. He has asked both of his parents for the dogs, but the family is too poor to afford the $75 required to purchase the dogs. He starts to waste away because he has lost the desire to eat due to his need for the dogs. So that was his dog-wanting disease and his puppy love. His father buys him some steel traps, which work for a while to take his mind off the dogs, but one night he hears a hunter and his hounds as they search for their quarry, which meaning the raccoons. He is unable to sleep and starts to lose more weight. His mother becomes concerned about his health, but his father tells her that he will allow the boy to help with the farming in the summer. The news is well received by Billy because it means his father thinks he's becoming a man. So this is also a story about this boy kind of coming to age. Billy, one day, as he is working in the fields, hears a group of fishermen leave their campsite in their car. He quickly runs to the site to see what the men left behind. He finds an old magazine which contains an ad for some red bone coonhound pups. The seller wants $25 a pup, which is a good price to pay for the dogs. Billy is excited at the prospect of buying 2 dogs. He prays to God, asking for help to make the money necessary to purchase the dogs. The prayer works by allowing him to find a way to make the money. He decides to sell crawfish, minnows, vegetables, berries, and animal pelts. It takes him 2 years of hard work to earn the money, but one day in his 12th year, he meets his goal of $50. He brings the money to his grandfather because he has promised to order the dogs for Billy. Billy's grandfather didn't think he would actually come up with the money, so he's surprised by Billy's accomplishments. He tells Billy he will write to the company selling the dogs to see if the dogs are still for sale. He makes Billy promise not to tell his father about the money because Billy's father might use it to buy a mule. After constantly checking with his grandfather to see if the puppy sellers responded to the letter of inquiry, Billy receives his answer. Not only are they still selling the puppies, but the price per dog has gone down by $5. Billy has $10 left over to spend however he desires. So if you watch the other videos with me, you'd remember that we went in to try to figure out, in an inflation calculator, what that money comes up to meaning. And so basically it's almost $1,000 that he needed to save. So huge amount of money to this family. The dogs are ordered and are to be shipped to Tahlequah, a town about 32 miles away from Billy's home. Grandpa tells Billy he will help him make arrangements to pick up the dogs. Billy happily leaves his grandpa's store to return home and tell his father of his purchase. He never finds the correct moment to tell his father about the puppies. After waiting 2 weeks for the dogs to arrive in Tahlequah, Billy is happy to receive the news that they are at the train depot. Billy's grandpa has made arrangements for him to ride with Jim Hodges in about a week to pick up the dogs. That night, Billy decides he doesn't want to wait a week for his dogs. So without telling his parents, he packs up some provisions and starts out on foot for Tahlequah. He walks as the crow flies to the town, which means he must traverse 12 miles instead of 32 to town. So as the crow flies means a crow wouldn't, take a right, then a left and go down this street. They just are above it. So he's on foot, kind of cutting through the mountains. There, Billy sees what a town looks like for the first time in his life. It is a little scary for him being in a new place, but he finds someone who will give him directions to the depot. For the first time, he encounters children at a school and is laughed at by an old lady after he tries out the playground equipment. After he buys his family some presents, he decides town people are different and hard to understand. Billy has made his way to the train depot, but is frightened to enter the depot, as he is unsure of the reception he will receive from the station master. The station master walks outside and engages Billy in conversation. He tells Billy he knows his father and he has 2 pups for Billy Coleman. This gives Billy the push he needs to talk to the station master. The station master takes Billy around to the freight door and gives him his puppies. Billy has never been happier in all his life. He leaves the depot sure that everyone in town will look at him in a new way because he's carrying 2 hound pups in his gunny sack. So he has this pride. Instead, he is laughed at, and some of the boys his age start to call him Dog Boy. After one of the boys pulls the ear of one of the pups, Billy takes a stand and fights the boys. He is hopelessly outnumbered, but the town marshal steps in to stop the fight. Billy explains to the marshal he has worked for 2 years to make the money to purchase the dogs. The marshal is impressed with Billy's determination and hard work. Billy starts for home and makes camp in a cave for the night. There he is given the opportunity to observe his puppies for the first time. He discovers the male dog is powerful and brave while the female dog is smart. He feels this combination will serve him well and as he and the dogs hunt. That evening, a mountain lion scents the dogs and stalks them just outside the cave. Billy keeps it at bay by building up a fire and hurling rocks at it. As morning approaches, the mountain lion leaves to find other prey. The next morning, Billy continues his walk home. He soon reaches the campsite where he found the magazine with the ad for the puppies. He sits there for a long time, putting off having to face his parents. He must have been petrified, right? He needs to find a name for his new dogs. He sees a couple of names carved into a sycamore tree. The names are Dan and Ann. He takes this as a sign from God, so he calls them Old Dan and Little Ann. He also realizes he helped him realize his dream of owning a pair of coonhounds. He now knows finding the magazine, earning the money for the puppies, and lastly finding the perfect names for his pups can only come from one divine intervention. He at last walks home thinking his parents are going to be very angry with him, but instead his mama is overjoyed to have her boy home and his father is not upset with him. His grandpa told his father where Billy probably was, which eased everyone's mind. The cloth, overalls, and candy he brought back from town also helped smooth things over with his family. Remember, he bought extra money, so he had extra money because the dog price had gone down, so he bought them some things. His father asked Billy how he liked being in town, and Billy tells him he didn't like it at all. He tells the family about the trouble he encountered there and the help of the marshal. Papa discloses to Billy and his sisters he and his mama plan to move the family to town as soon as they can afford it, so the children can go to school. Billy the next day explains to Mama he thinks God helped him achieve his goal of owning the puppies. Now that Billy has his pups, he needs to train them to hunt raccoons, or coons as he calls them. To train them, he needs a coon skin, and the one he wants belongs to Mr. Ringtail. He tries for 3 weeks to trap the coon, but to no avail, so he turns to his grandpa for advice. His grandpa tells him the surefire way to catch a coon is to use a brace and a bit. A brace is a tool used to drill holes in the wood, and a bit is attached to the end of the brace to make the hole. Grandpa tells Billy to use the tool to drill a 6-inch hole into a log. Then he put a piece of shiny tin at the bottom of the hole. He instructs Billy on the correct way to insert horseshoe nails into the sides of the hole. The raccoon will pull his paw in the hole to reach the tin and wrap his paw around it. Then the paw will become too big to remove from the hole because the nails will trap it. The coon, once it seizes something in its paws, will not let go, so he will not be able to escape the trap. Billy follows his grandpa's instructions, but after a week, he still hasn't caught a coon. His father tells him to give it a little more time, and sure enough, he does catch a large raccoon. He uses the hide to train his dogs to follow the coon's scent trail. After weeks of training, Billy feels his dogs are ready to hunt as raccoon season starts. Billy explains to his dogs that he's going to give them a few days to rest before hunting season starts. He feels his dogs understand him when he talks to them, and in their own way, they answer him. He knows what they are thinking by the way they wag their tails, lick his skin, or what he sees in their eyes. Billy returns home after a long trek with his dogs. His parents are not angry with him. Instead, they are happy to have him home safe and sound. His grandpa teaches him how to catch a raccoon and in training his dogs. The first day of hunting season has finally arrived. It is the day Billy has been working towards for almost 3 years. He doesn't think about the possible dangers of hunting alone at night, but his parents do. His father treats the almost 14-year-old Billy Coleman as a man. Billy's mother, like most mothers, has a hard time recognizing her little boys growing up. She knows she can't keep him from hunting his dogs, but she would like to. Billy's papa strikes a deal with him. Billy can hunt all night and not work the farm during the day, if he tells his parents where he is hunting each night. This way, if Billy doesn't return home, they will know where to look for him. Billy accepts this reasonable deal. He doesn't know this plan will be useful the very first night he hunts. The family sees Billy off as he, Old Dan, and Little Ann go into the woods to hunt a ringtail raccoon for the first time. Billy is confident. Billy's confident they will bring back a coon to hang on the side of the smokehouse. The dogs are eager to begin the hunt. They remember what Billy has taught them, and soon they are on the trail of a coon. The animal is wily, which causes some problems for Old Dan and Little Ann as he crosses the river and they lose his scent. Billy is about to give up on the dogs, finding the trail again on their own. Then Little Ann plunges into the river. Old Dan follows her and the chase is on. The raccoon crosses back across the river and climbs up a water oak, causing the dogs to lose track of the animal. Just as Billy is about to move on to another area to hunt, Little Ann sees the raccoon and chases after him. He climbs up the largest sycamore tree in the woods. Billy doesn't think he can chop the tree down. Then he realizes he has to because of the promise he made to his dogs. He told them if they treat a coon, he would take care of the rest. He starts to chop down the huge tree and is still working at it when his father finds him the next morning. His parents were worried because he didn't come home. His father has Billy's sister bring him food so he can continue chopping down the tree. Billy tells him he must do this himself because otherwise it would be going back on his word to his dogs. His father respects his son for wanting to keep his word, whether it's to a man or an animal. Okay, so that is our summary up to this point of the book. You should be able to jump in and get on it starting on Monday if you go through this summary. So starting on Monday, I'm going to be assigning you probably about 45 minutes of reading and writing a day that you're going to be expected to do. And I think that's fair, and I think it's reasonable, and I think it's the best thing you can do for yourself. So if you aren't able to do it, I understand, but you have to send me an email explaining why. Otherwise, if I don't see you starting to post work, I have to go in and get in touch with your parents and see what's going on. So please, this was the summary. This is the time to catch up. And starting Monday, you need to stay with the expectations of what we're doing with this book. All right? We're going to be out of school for a while as of this point, so we need to start getting into a regular routine. I know it was confusing in the beginning, but starting Monday, you are caught up by listening to the summary, and you are good to go as we read chapter 9 together. All right, I hope you're having a great day, and I will see you soon. Giraffe suit for you and everyone who did the vocabulary. Thank you. Bye.